Welcome to the Test Guild Automation Podcast, where we all get together to learn more about automation and software testing with your host, Joe Colantonio.
Hey, it's Joe, and welcome to another episode of the Test Guild Automation Podcast. Today, we'll be talking about Ruslan and Andrey all about next-gen TestOps. If you don't know, Ruslan is the DevRel lead at Qameta software, or Qameta, the TestOps ambassador and DevOps enjoyer, conference crawler, all around, all things about QA and testing. So really excited to have him. He's also joined by Andrey, who's a DevOps and infrastructure expert at Qameta. And he has a lot of experience in building pipelines and world-class fintech and IT companies. So we have a lot of great experience here. We're going to talk a lot about TestOps, automation, and a whole other bunch of things that you don't want to miss. Stick around. Check it out. The Test Guild Automation Podcast is sponsored by the fantastic folks at Sauce Labs, the cloud-based test platform that helps ensure you can develop with confidence at every step, from code to deployment, for every framework, browser, OS, mobile device, and API. Get a free trial. Visit testguild.com/Sauce Labs and click on the exclusive sponsors section to try it for free today. Check it out. Hey guys, welcome to the Guild.
Hey, great to see you here, and happy to be here, actually.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm really excited about this. Before we jump into it, I'm already off topic, I think, are you the folks behind the really popular automation reporting library, Allure?
Yes, that's us, and I would say it would be better to say that we're actually people in the team of people behind the Allure report.
Okay.
So Qameta software is actually a maintainer of Allure report and Allure TestOps. Yeah.
Great. So I guess the main topic, the reason why I bring that up is a lot of people use the library, and I just want to let people know one of the reasons why I came across your company and you folks is through Allure. So one thing that caught my attention is I think you're talking a lot about TestOps, and I know there's a lot of variations of the term TestOps, what it means, and what the connection is between DevOps and TestOps and why we need another ops thing. So I just want to get your own personal opinion is, what do you think TestOps is, and what's your vision of what TestOps is nowadays?
Yeah, I guess I'll be short, and then I will just let Andrey say his opinion too. So as far as I understood, I've been working in Qameta for more than a year already. And all this time we've been talking about TestOps actually with various people here and there on conferences, on forums, in messengers and chats and so on. And each time I see some companies speak about TestOps, I always see some kind of vendor lock about what is TestOps. So I won't poke with finger at anyone, but in fact, the TestOps is considered to be mostly like a tool-related thing. But if we dive into what DevOps is, reading Project Phoenix and thinking about that, it's actually a set of processes and people communications patterns. And then tooling comes to solve these challenges. And for me, TestOps is also a subset of DevOps, actually. It's not like some kind of additional ops. It's a subset of DevOps, of techniques to communicate and to solve different problems which come with evolution of company when it comes through DevOps transformation. QA QA tends to be a little bit abandoned, left behind. That's a good word. So sometimes QA gets left behind because developers, they have already amazing tool set like GitHub, CI, CDs, pipelines, and so on. So Andrey will tell you more about that. And ops people, they also have amazing tools like Kubernetes, Dockers, virtualization tools, and so on. And when we speak about QA, if the QA team is not extremely modern, there is a lot of manual testers who actually keep clicking through web interface because, we did it all the time. That's the historical pattern, Why would we change it? Why would we believe in automated test? Automated test doesn't understand anything. He doesn't see the page. He is not a user. So we need a person to check it out. But when we need to release 10 times a day, we can't actually check everything. So at this point, here is a problem which TestOps should solve. There is a disconnection in processes between DevOps and classical QA. I would not say legacy because it's not legacy at all by now, but classical QA patterns. So the TestOps is for us, TestOps is something which should help people to break the expertise silo between QA and developers and ops. I would say something like this. So Andrew, would you add something?
I'll tell in a bit different way. So, what is DevOps? Because it's the oldest discipline. I would say DevOps is a fusion between developer and ops, operations engineer. So it means the way to deliver the software as fast as possible. Using various instruments like pipelines, CI/CDs, and other things like this. And so what is the most important? It's not the tool. I mean, the DevOps, TestOps, and others are not tools. It's a method. I would say it's disciplines. With the various subsets, as Ruslan said. So, for example, if we get DevOps, it has subsets like DevSecOps, which means developer security ops, and TestOps. It means developers, QAs, and operations engineering. So. What's important about this is a way of faster delivery. But not losing in quality. That's what I wanted to say.
So faster delivery, but with a loss of quality. But as Ruslan was saying, a lot of times you need classical QA, and a lot of times that incorporates a person. So how do you get there then? How do you get a marriage of classic QA along with technology that you need?
Some companies like Google, Microsoft, Facebook, and others, they made up a word called SDET. Software developer in test. What it means? It means it's a specialist who's good in coding, knows how to deploy things, and also has expertise in QA. So it's kind of a mixture. Some companies or experts, they say almost the same. I mean about what is SDET, and what SDET practice is TestOps.
Yeah, and I will just add something from a different point of view. So the whole point of when you are talking about how do we achieve that symbiotic or synthesis of collaboration. So just think about that. If we don't make QA, if we don't bring QA to DevOps, developers will test everything by themselves, actually. So that was actually a point from a friend of mine, Sergey Yegorov, who is actually a test containers maintainer and Atomic Jar, one of co-founders. So, and his point was why do you actually, what is actually TestOps? What TestOps is, we developers test everything already, so why we need to actually, and who are QA people? And I was like, well, that's a good point, because that's something good to discuss. And the main point is that developers they do a lot of testing. They create unit tests, so they run the software through a lot of quality gates before deploying it to the user. But developers tend to test the happy path. So the idea of developers testing is, I want to be sure it works as intended. So, and the idea of a tester testing software is, let's check that it doesn't do something wrong while it does what is intended. So if we just leave our QA somewhere like behind, the quality will drop. Not because and the reason will not be because developers can't write any tests, but just they have different mindset. And when we speak about collaboration between automated testing and manual testing, so a year ago, me and our co-founder Artem Yuroshenko, we were talking something like, okay, everything will be automated soon. And then each time we said somebody raises their hand and says, but you can't automate everything. And we're like, of course we can, but it might be too costly. Well, it might be expensive. Yeah, so extremely expensive. So then we've been thinking about that a lot. And the idea is we should leave manual testing for exploratory tasks. But we don't do regress testing, validation testing. We should automate it and make it as fast-paced as possible. And then manual testers or brainual testers, they will become brainual actually. So they will provide us, so they will tell automation engineers what tests to write, what to test correctly, and so on. And at this point, automation engineers should work with developers in close collaboration, I would say in one pull request, in perfect picture. So that's some kind of TestOps implementation we believe in.
And there is a small remark. TestOps doesn't exclude manual testing. I'll try to explain why. The point is, mostly in a large company, if you want to test something, you need the testing environment. So it means you need a copy of your working piece of software, well integrated, and then you can start testing. So TestOps, as DETs, they also help you to deploy this environment in one click. So to make your manual testing going. Not to wait for a whole day when your operation engineers are going to deploy a whole environment for you.
So I've had this discussion before, and there's different extremes. One extreme is people say we don't have a QA team, we don't have a testing team, we have a team, and the team in the sprint's responsible for all the activities involved in development of the software, including testing, which usually ends up being the developer that does the testing. So in your model of what you've seen, you think, I always get asked, oh, you still need QA, is QA dead? So you don't see QA being dead, you see them just they're no longer being just a separate group, they're part of the team, or how does it work?
Evolve.
Well, we're trying not to make their work boring. So what I mean by this, boring is when you are doing the same task over and over again. When you test on the same data set, so in this way, after the third or fifth run, you're getting bored. You stop noticing bugs, and it doesn't work well. But what automation does for this is it covers all the most common cases, and in this way you have only the most interesting things to test.
Yeah, when people say QA is dead, they actually mean they can't use QA artifacts in deployment, or it takes a lot of effort. So, and this is actually called by by the amount of crafted work. When people work with their hands, it takes time, and it takes and it actually causes human factor. And what Andrey says, so if we take all the routine tasks from manual testers, we leave them with amazing job of exploratory testing of new features. And the pipeline would look like we create a feature branch, and we take a couple of days to create a feature. So it goes. So then we create a build. It runs through regress testing. So if it's fine, we deploy it to the staging or to a testing server. So, and then a person who is actually a manual tester takes 2 hours. They have this time slot of 2 hours. Don't create a lot of test cases for 2 days working. You've got 2 hours, so just check the most important things in new stuff. And we get these test cases, so the person checks everything if it works. So, and if everything works, so the deployment goes forward. But what happens to these test cases? They drop to the automation engineers as technical requirements for next automated tests. So, and when the next feature branch gets created, the previous manual test should be already automated. And at this point, manual testing will be able to keep up. And it will not be that at all because, well, as I said, automated tests are dumb. So that means somebody smart should think before them and think through them for them to be and the other option is automated tests are dumb and they fall all the time. I mean, you just swap the button 10 pixels left and the automated test says, oh, screenshot is wrong, so I fail. And you get a lot of false failures, and nobody wants to work with them. At this point, you need to think about some kind of automated fails resolution and so on. And that's also a part of TestOps, because when a new automation engineer comes to a QA team, he creates a lot of automated tests. So these tests start failing, and QA people who are they are used to people creating fails. So, and if a person creates fail, it's some kind of smart fail, a button doesn't work. And when an automated test says some bullshit oh, the button was moved at 10 pixels, and everyone we know, why do you fail? And then people start they don't trust automated tests. Oh, this automated test again, they are falling again, nobody cares, And this is the problem with tests in QA, because developers actually love their tests. They believe their tests because they know what they do. And when a manual QA team sees automated tester creating automated test, they are oh, they will fall again. Okay. That's some kind of another challenge and disconnection here. So
I guess the question is then, how realistic is this? Is this just for startups? It's because you have a small team, you're able to control everything? When you get at an enterprise level, I know a lot of times people are just oh, it doesn't work. It's, it's too much. What does a company, I guess, need to have in place in order for TestOps to be successful? Let's start there.
Well, there is that's a great question, actually, Joe. Thank you. So the main idea is, I believe it's absolutely it is absolutely a plausible story, because I know teams who work this way, actually. So, and I've been reading, for example, Uber blog about about the way they do their testing, and it actually is TestOps. They just don't call it TestOps, and that's another question. Do we actually need a TestOps word? Because when we make talks or we talk about TestOps, a lot of people comment oh, we have this flow. Why do you need a TestOps? And my answer is, we needed the word TestOps for people who actually do not have this flow to explain what they need. Because actually I don't speak about some kind of rocket science. With time, these ideas become almost obvious when you try to build something like this. When you start thinking about bringing QA back to the DevOps pipeline, these old solutions are obvious, but we need something to like highlight the importance of the topic. And when you ask about like a startup or enterprise, if it is an modern enterprise, it's easy. So if it is an enterprise that looks like something that has like 400 manual testers department and 20 automation engineers somewhere in the basement writing their tests, well, that's going to be a challenge. And at this point, you will need, first of all, to like huge improvements in processes or changes. If it's you may not call it improvement, but changes in processes. You will definitely need somebody to lead this. Just as with DevOps, you always need a person who drives the change, because it will be stuck at each step, because manual testers, a lot of them don't want to store their tests in code. That's a great idea, right? So we get all the, Andrey.
I'd like to share some of my experience because I've used to work in Tinkoff, which is one of the best fintech in Russia and maybe in the world. And the point is, Tinkoff is a really various company. What I mean by this, there are lots of departments which have the various level of maturity. So it means like there are some services like an Oracle database with stored procedures, and so the testers they just do all the testing manually. So they just call this process comparing with what's expected. And also there are some departments who's selling some travel deals, and they've got really advanced DevOps and TestOps practices, because what they do, they've got a great pipeline. It's a bit complicated, but it's really effective, because they what they do, the developers they write their tests as a proof the product works. And then what they do, they use contract testing, which checks all the endpoints they've got or declared. So it means if one endpoint is not working as supposed to with the previous version, so they rework it. And then what they do, they deploy it to Kubernetes, run some end-to-end tests in integrated environment, and then they release. They've got the continuous cycle of development. So it means in one company you can see various methodologies of software development, and so this company uses as beta Allure TestOps. And so it works for both cases. For the least advanced, because they've got a familiar interface to track the tests and to enter the results there. And they've got the system which aggregates all the results of whole testing. So if you're a manager of Tinkoff, you can just log into Allure and see the whole testing in a whole company aggregated. And so you can invest more resources in those departments who's not so developed. So by this, I believe that TestOps is the stage of evolution.
Absolutely. Now, you mentioned Allure DevOps, and I know you said it's a methodology, but I'm a big believer in tools, because tools is what help people get the job done when they actually have to do it. So a lot of times I see people go down the rabbit hole of we only use open source, and they put in a lot of effort and time that, I mean, I love working with vendors as well, because they could have purchase a solution that was already up and running and works. So like, when do you know when to use open source or a vendor base? Is it a combination of both, or how do you see that?
Well, I see this in a way that open source is great. It's amazing. You can just start up any project you want from scratch in like 5 minutes. I mean, for a prototype. But every open source product requires some customizing, and it's really difficult to do. And in this way, you have a choice. First choice, you are going to the market and you are trying to find the best engineers on the market, to hunt them and to make them work for you. In this way, everything is going to work as charm. And the second way, if you don't have this opportunity or budget, what you do, you pay for enterprise edition of this open source product. I'm not telling this about Allure. I can tell this about the Sentry, for example. There is the open source version and enterprise. So if you don't feel you have enough resources to do open source thing, you just buy the commercial version, and like many others.
Well, I would say, and I would like take a look from a higher level and would think about it in a, like I am totally agree with Andrey, of course, but if to look at it like from the bird's eye, by a bird's eye, I'm sorry, like I guess this part should be like corrected. So yeah. So if you take a bird's eye look at this question, I would say that you need a tool, like you need to buy some kind of ready-to-go tool when you are not sure you will be able to build a process by yourself. So open source, as Andrey said, is usually solves some kind of specific task. So there is no like huge, there are of course huge open source projects that solve a lot of tasks, like I would say Java. It's like, why not? But mostly open source projects, like for example our Allure report, is some kind of smaller piece of software, and then we get products built up like built on these open source products, I would say again. So which work, which actually encapsulate in more specific processes and expertise. And speaking and answering the question you are actually asked, that's a great question again. How did DevOps actually evolve? So if you want to build a DevOps culture in your company, you actually need a lot of expertise. So like breaking the silos, building the pipeline is extremely expensive and is extremely like, it takes the best people in the world. I mean, like that's why Google, for example, takes the best people in the world. But then Google creates tooling which allows like normal people like us do DevOps in different countries, because the tool actually incorporates the expertise. So you can create like tutorials and provide tools for usual people to create extremely hard work. I mean, like, take a look at Docker. Virtualization before Docker was kind of complicated thing. And now I see people, I've got a lot of friends, and some of them are not like, they are not engineers at all. So they are more like so they are more like non-IT people. But when they come to like some large company to work as a technical writer, for example. So this is their first experience. And then they tell me, okay, it's been half a year, so I got some cool, neat stuff to learn. I was like, what? Oh, well, when I need to show the documentation I've created, I need to create a Docker virtualized image, then test everything with it, with environments and so on. And I was like, is that really you? you didn't know about Docker half a year ago. And then a person just tells me about virtualization and creating images with environments and so on. And that's how good tooling works. And when you ask me about what's better, to take a ready and paid tool or to build something by yourself, well, I would say check your power. If you are powerful enough to build it by your own, and you have time and money for that, because developing something from scratch is always difficult. That's why almost nobody uses Linux from scratch. Everybody uses Ubuntu, and that's the same. Should I take Ubuntu or should I take LFS? Oh well, if you ask this, take Ubuntu. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, but Ubuntu lacks the SE Linux, which means less security, but it's okay. And
No,
also this,
Ubuntu is just an example. You can take some kind of more secure distributive, but still.
The major point about the Docker, if somebody is going to hear that, I want to say a big thank you to Docker team. Especially for their desktop edition, which becomes fatter and fatter with every update, and consumes more and more memory as Google Chrome.
So, you both brought up interesting points about TestOps, and I think you said it allows things to bubble up from the team, so everyone has a big picture of maybe teams that aren't doing as well, or maybe teams that need investing in, or maybe teams that automation is up to speed or isn't delivering faster than they should be. So what I've seen with companies when they use open source, they have all these solutions. They have Bamboo. Some teams may be using GitHub. Other teams may be using Selenium and Cypress. And there's no way to pull it all together. So as part of TestOps, I would assume that's one of the key ingredients. You have this high-level overview where you can have insights to all these different groups and technologies. So does Allure TestOps give you that type of insights? Can you just tell us a little more, I guess, about Allure TestOps itself as a product?
If you take Allure open source, so you can easily build such system without paying a penny. Just using it in the right way. But if you don't have enough engineers who's capable doing such things, better get Enterprise Edition. It is the same as Kubernetes. For example, there are all instruments to deploy Kubernetes everywhere. For example, kubespray. It's open source, it's free, and so you can just deploy it. But you need the knowledge of Ansible first. Because it provisions the virtual machines or bare metal before you deploy these. Also, you need the knowledge of networking because it requires some expertise in networking. For example, which CNI you are going to use, like Calico, Cilium, or any other. But you can go to Amazon and get the AKS or EKS. It's for Elastic Container, something like this. The managed Kubernetes, which most company provides. So it is the same. You can use Allure open source to build a great reporting system, and you can get the already tuned.
Again, so we got some kind of bare metal vision of Andrey, and and now I will just add something above. So speaking of choosing a tool, there is always question: what price will you pay from your own toolbox? When you try to adopt some tool, you should take a look at how well it works with everything that works for you already. And in terms of TestOps, as you said, there is already an infrastructure which we would love to be able to work with. And so this is actually one of the first ideas of how Allure TestOps was born. because our team actually created Allure report, and they were like, so what do people want? So they want these reports to be sustainable, persistent, and easy to share. So that was the first idea. But then, and how do you do it? You you don't create local runs. You start running your reporting on CI/CD, and then we just our guys just started creating all these integrations with TeamCity, with Jenkins, with CircleCI, with GitHub, with GitLab, because people actually need these. They want to take the tool, then just plug it with a pipeline. There is actually an anecdotal story about another my friend who works in an IT company who actually wanted to buy Allure TestOps, but his team were like, no, we are not going to take Allure TestOps. It's just a reporting system. We'll write by ourselves. We had this conversation 3 years ago, and they still don't have this automated reporting system that takes all the testing. Because we've started thinking about how many human hours it takes to build something like Allure report, even not even TestOps. So it has integrations with 26 frameworks on 11 programming languages. They are officially maintained by us, and we officially say that they work well. So these are in GitHub in Allure framework repository. That means that you are totally backed by our team when you choose any tool for testing, almost any. Of course, I guess there are some not really popular tools that will not be supported, but this is open. You can create it's easy to create integration with Allure report. And if you take Allure TestOps, you just ask us. And that's another point of waiting to take open source or to take some kind of paid software. Because if some company who bought Allure TestOps actually needs integration, they come to us, to our support team, and they say we need to integrate some kind of this weird and specific JavaScript testing framework. And we're like, oh, fine, okay, why not? We have all these API handles available. It's not really hard for us to build such an integration. It takes a week or two with testing, and that's how it works. And that's why sometimes I'm skeptical about many other tools which I see that are totally that exist in closed ecosystem. I've been discussing with just at a conference yesterday, discussing the Cypress tool. So it is an amazing tool for its tasks. So and everybody recommends Cypress for the task it was created for. But when people start thinking about variability, Cypress sometimes becomes a little bit closed. So you need to think how to integrate it with your other infrastructure. The same works, for example, with TMS test management systems. Most of them are great for manual testing. And they say, and almost every TMS tells you that, of course, we support automated testing. But how does it look? It looks like an API handles from the TMS, and they're like, okay, so you take these API handles and build your integration by yourself. So, and then all you get from, and then everything you get from automated testing is pass or fail. Because building a detailed step-by-step integration takes time and good engineering. And nobody wants to get involved in that because, I'm building some kind of small piece of software that will be used only here with another system. Nobody knows. And then if I write it today, I will have to maintain it for the end of my days. And that's how it works. So, yeah, that's something to consider when you are thinking, should I take open source, or should I take some kind of supported product?
Great point.
Yeah, if you write your own software for this, so you'll get frozen until you needed to support it. Then you got defrosted, then coding, and then frosted again. like engineers of Boeing.
Yeah, absolutely. So I know you folks are always working on new technologies, new innovations. You have Allure reporting, Allure TestOps. Is there anything new on your roadmap or something you're working on that you think people would like to learn more about as well?
Yeah, there is actually there are two things. We first of all, 1 week ago, we created a first major release actually for Allure TestOps. It has always been 3 point something, and now it's 4.1.0. So it has a lot of large improvements and like more than 10 large scale features. Including actually, speaking of integrations, like we've actually made a UI for integration. So now you can just open a window and then just click, I want GitHub CI or GitLab CI, and then it just works. Well, maybe a little bit more complicated, but so we tell it works like this, and then we just take a look at it. Yeah, so, and the second thing after the new release is actually something people have been waiting for a year or more, or 2 years already. So we on our website we have this form for if you are a small team or if you don't want to work with your own infrastructure or your own on-premise instance, you can get in the waiting list for a cloud version. So we've got about several hundred teams waiting for our cloud, which will come to public availability extremely soon, like maybe when this podcast will be already released. So check out Qameta.io and check out our new cloud instance, because it is actually much easier with cloud. Because, when you take an on-premise Allure TestOps instance, you need to build it, deploy it, and so on. So with cloud, you just drop us your contacts. We send you the key and the button, and you just click the button, and Allure is already here, ready to serve with your tests. And just plug in your CI, show the Allure your repository with automated tests, and actually you can start working. And actually the cloud version is something which looks like it should be from the very beginning, like extremely easy to use, extremely fast, and like extremely DevOps-ish, I would say.
Yeah, and I can tell you why. It is because we use the latest cloud technologies for this. Because during our experience of supporting on self-premise versions of Allure TestOps, we found out that most people are experiencing some problems with the storage, because it's the Ceph, it's a file system, and it works not that fast as required. So mostly our instances are on Amazon S3, and it works really fast. So in this way, you'll never see a delay. We've been checking our metrics recently, and we found that the average response time of every request is 0.02 milliseconds.
Okay, guys, before we go, is there one piece of actual advice you can give to someone to help them with their automation testing, TestOps efforts, and what's the best way to find, contact you, and to learn more about Allure TestOps?
Well, I can give an advice. First, be skeptic about everything you learn. And second, try to avoid the pain. So choose the right tools. And we've got a nice community of Allure TestOps. So why it's important for people to come, because they're helping us to become better. They see the things they don't like about Allure TestOps, and they see the things they like. So it is important to share what you think about that.
Yeah, for me, the advice would be like easy one. So if you write tests, run them as frequently as you can. So the more frequently you run your tests, the more detail you get. So because tests, as I said, they are dumb. So sometimes they fall for weird reasons like time zone, night build, weird infrastructure timeouts, hardware problems. So to eliminate all this stuff, your test should run all the time. Like create a separate machine to run the tests all the time, nonstop. That's the advice. It's qameta.io, our website. So we have actually a blog which tells in a lot more detailed way everything that we've been discussing today. So I guess I would love people to read it and come to me with feedback, because I'm writing there is more than 50 articles, I believe. So I would love to get some feedback or collaboration ideas. So come to us, read about Allure TestOps at Qameta.io, and read our blog.
Thanks again for your automation awesomeness. The links to everything of value we covered in this episode, head on over to testguild.com/A407. And while you're there, make sure to click on the Try for Free Today link under the exclusive sponsor section to learn all about Sauce Lab's awesome products and services. And if the show has helped you in any way, why not rate it and review it in iTunes? Reviews really help in the rankings of the show, and I read each and every one of them. So that's it for this episode of the Test Guild Automation Podcast. I'm Joe, and my mission is to help you succeed with creating end-to-end, full-stack automation awesomeness. As always, test everything and keep the good. Cheers.
Thanks for listening to the Test Guild Automation Podcast. Head on over to testguild.com for full show notes, amazing blog articles, and online testing conferences. Don't forget to subscribe to the Guild to continue your testing journey.